In this lesson, we'll review a question from a long fictional reading passage. It's part of the critical reading section. We're on page 427, question 11. If you follow these lessons, I've told you there are always 4 long passages on the critical reading section, of which 3 are always going to be nonfiction. So total of 4, 3 are nonfiction, and only 1 fictional passage. And we know this is the fictional passage because in the italics we see it comes from a novel or a short story. If you see either of those 2 terms, we know it's fictional. And why do I make the distinction? The nonfiction, you can glean the main point in the first paragraph and then skim through the rest of it. It's more of an academic subject. But the fictional passage, it's really a sequence of emotions and dialogue, and even though you have to read through it its entirety, it's usually a lot more interesting. And in fact, I really thought this was sort of an amusing passage. If you look at the italics, we know there's only 2 characters here. There's Miss Kildare and Mr. Simpson. Miss Kildare's just turned 21. It's in early 19th century in England, and Miss Kildare, who's her guardian, her uncle, he has come in and is excited because there's a marriage proposal on the table from Mr. Wynne, and he really just wants to be done sort of taking care of his niece. And they get into sort of an old-fashioned argument or row, as the British would say. This huge sort of just argument where they're just going right at each other. So we have to gauge the tone, and there's a lot more irony here because there's dialogue. And we have a question here. Miss Kildare's first objection to Mr. Wynne's proposal is that he is what? So we're going to reference back to the line numbers. So this right here is line 40, and let's take a look. Hopefully you've read this passage. So line 40 states, please state your objections. Now this is the uncle, Mr. Simpson, asking his niece why she doesn't want to marry him, by the way. Hopefully, I'm sure you gauge that, because she doesn't approve of him and she wants to marry for love, not all these pragmatic, realistic reasons. So he's stating, state your objections, Miss Kildare. And this is Miss Kildare speaking. He, right, she's referring to Mr. Wynne, the suitor, has run a course of despicable, commonplace profligacy, good vocab word, sort of wasteful living. Accept that as the first reason why I spurn him, why I reject him. So she doesn't approve. That's the first reason, because he's sort of despicable and profligacy. He's wasteful, he's spending, and he's really not sort of the type of man she wants. And so that objection can best be described. This is how vocab plays a role. It's never going to be the same language that you see. So if you look at the choice, and by the way, there's not a progressive level of difficulty. 11 is a level 4. We know it's a moderate to difficult problem. So let's take a look at the answer choices here. You can kind of predict it based on this vocab. A, he wastes his time in reckless, undignified pursuit. So despicable, right? That's undignified. Profligacy means wasteful. That's the choice. That is the answer. If you look at B, expresses no regret for damage caused by his actions. That's not on point. Fails to treat others with respect. No, we're talking how he lives sort of this banal, this crude, wasteful life. D is dependent on his family, financial support. No, if anything, he has resources. And E lacks the imagination and sensitivity of an artist, way off point. Vocab plays such a huge role in these difficult reading problems, but despicable and profligacy best can be translated into undignified and reckless. All right, the answer choice is A. Hopefully you enjoy this passage a little bit. See you next time. Thanks for watching.